Star Patty Stanger tweeted, "Everybody I know is on it." And Real Housewives producer Andy Cohen tweeted,
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our candidates forum put on by the Oakland AME churches. I will be giving brief instructions on how to utilize our interpretations. This meeting will be simultaneously interpreted in English and in Spanish. So if you would prefer to listen to this meeting in English, you should see at the bottom the globe that says interpretation. Click on that globe that says interpretation, and then select your language of preference, whether English or Spanish. Again, at the bottom, it says interpretation. There's a globe that says English or Spanish. Click on that globe, please, and select your preferred language. Hola y bienvenidos a todos aquí. A esta reunión vamos a traducir en inglés y en español. Si prefieren escuchar en español o inglés, debajo de tu computadora hay un globo que dice interpretación. Por favor, haga clic en el globo y después haga clic en cuál idioma que prefieren. Otra vez, vamos a traducir esta reunión en dos idiomas, inglés y español. Si prefieren escuchar en inglés o español, haga clic al globo debajo de tu computadora que dice interpretación y haga clic en cuál idioma que prefieren. Gracias por estar aquí. Pastor Sales will begin with you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening for a very important mayoral forum. First of all, we'd like to thank you for joining and thank the candidates for being in attendance.
I don't see how that's possible.
Post mute. Can someone be muted?
Yes.
1 second. All right. So I am the pastor of Brookings AME Church in Oakland, California, and today I'm representing the Oakland AME churches of Oakland, California, First AME Church, Parks Chapel, and Brookings. We gathered together because we are facing an election, and can you all hear me? I was muted.
No, Pastor Sales, go ahead and please continue. And everybody, could you please double check your computers and make sure that.
I see someone here.
Oh, Pastor Sales, go ahead and continue. Could everybody please just double check their computers and make sure that they are muted?
I am muted, I know that.
But that was on the second.
I see it's a no, it says muted. There's a Verena McKenzie here that looks like it.
We didn't have the amount on the second.
All right. I will continue though. The African Methodist Episcopal churches represented here in Faith in Action East Bay are nonprofits. We are neither affiliated nor endorsing any candidate. We are nonpartisan organizations, but our purpose here today is simply to facilitate a forum for our members and the community so that they may be in a position to be informed voters and civically engaged. To the candidates, again, I say welcome. This is a forum and not a debate. Thank you all so much for coming. In keeping with our faith and principles, we're asking each candidate to differentiate yourself in terms of the substance of your policies and perspectives and not by attack. Our community wants to know who you are, not who you are not like. And if there is a disagreement, we ask that you be civil. These questions were crowdsourced and curated from members of our churches, and they center around your potential policies and principles, as well as the challenges and opportunities that face the city of Oakland. We hope that you will give thoughtful responses to these questions, and given the number of candidates here and given the time that we like to spend on Zoom together, we will be very strict with the time, and we will make sure that once your allotted time has passed, there will be a signal that your time is up. At that point, I will let you all finish your statement briefly, which at that point, I will have to interject politely and ask the next person to speak. Amen. This forum is set up that there will be 3 major questions focusing on illegal dumping and blight, the unhoused, and the economic displacement of the Black community in Oakland, then followed by some rapid response questions. So leading us off, first, let me say and let me thank, in no particular order, Ms. Reed, Mr. Taylor, Mr. De La Fuente, Mr. Liu, Mr. Scott, Mr. Hodge, Ms. Victory. I think I got everybody. If I didn't, your name will certainly be called when it is time to speak. Thank you all so much for agreeing to come out and speak to our members with some burning questions that they have. We know that your time is valuable and there are things that you could be doing on a Friday evening. And so we thank you for taking this time. Coming up first is a member of our churches, Bill Carson, who will ask our first question.
Good afternoon, candidates. Here's the introduction. We have heard from several people from our communities and congregations regarding illegal dumping and blight within our neighborhoods and across the city of Oakland. Here's the 2-part question. Do you believe illegal dumping can be eliminated in Oakland? And how would you focus the efforts of the city towards addressing this challenge? Here's part 2. What is your analysis of how the city has been approaching illegal dumping? And is there anything you would change?
Our order is Ms. Victory, followed by Ms. Reed, followed by Mr. Taylor, after which I'll give further directions, and also in the chat box is also the order.
Can you all hear me okay? Okay, sorry, I'm on my phone having some technical issues, but I'm still here. I'm Elisa Victory Villanueva. I'm number 7 on your ballot. I'm a daughter of Oakland who's raised in North Oakland, has since lived in every city district, currently live in San Antonio Park neighborhood, where there is a lot of illegal dumping. There's TVs outside my house right now. There's church chairs put outside by different congregations. Our city's current practice and policy of responding to dumping is to criminalize it, is to put up surveillance cameras, is to have task force and teams working with our DA to prosecute dumping. But that is on the back end. It doesn't affirmatively stop it, and it doesn't clean up our streets. I want to invest more in really basic common sense solutions of having more control, more sanitation services, having investment in public works. We have a private company that does our trash pickup and our recycling cleanup, and it's not flexible enough to meet the need that we're seeing in our city, to meet the need that our unhoused tenant encampments need for trash pickup. So even when people are doing their job of doing all these community cleanups, still sometimes that trash gets back on the streets. I want to have more public trash cans, more affirmative public works and sanitation service to allow people to behave the way that we're asking to, not simply to overinvest in criminalization of the problem and in carceral solutions. I want all of our streets to be safe and to be clean. And part of that is fixing the dumping issue, but again, providing more dumpsters, providing more public trash cans. This was also affirmed in our Supervisor Nate Miley's study that talked about a trash can eliminating all the costs to our businesses to clean up illegal dumping. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Reed.
Yes, I believe that we can get out of this public health crisis and this state of emergency. It's all around us, and especially in districts that I serve now as a council member like East Oakland. We've not had a proactive response that's been funded, that's been adequately staffed, nor has it been resourced equitably throughout the city. We have also not had enough staff to address the 851 encampments that are in our city. And so I will establish an interdepartmental and intergovernmental agency council for ongoing work to address the blight, the illegal dumping, the graffiti, environmental hazards that have plagued our city. I will increase that collaboration and accountability with partners like Caltrans, who we've met with today, the railroads, Peralta College Community, BART, AC Transit. All of us have accountability. I will continue to do what we've done. I worked to secure illegal dumping cameras, and I pursued additional funding through the Alameda County District Attorney's Office for more cameras for education and enforcement. We'll continue to hire more environmental enforcement officers citywide. I advocated for that resource to be restored, as well as I advocated to restore our OPD, encampment management, and public works units. We've certainly hosted a number of community cleanups, and I believe that we need to lead out with a citywide Love on Our Town community cleanup with beautification events that are funded. I'll prioritize filling our 130 plus vacancies that we heard again from our public works director, and have a neighborhood job outreach and workforce readiness programs to hire those from our community to serve us, as we've done with the ELF program and the Beautification Council. I'll staff up our
I'm
abandoned.
sorry. It's our time. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you to our AME churches, Fame, Brookings, Parks Chapel, pastors, leaders, members, and other community members who are here. My name is Lauren Taylor. I am the council member representing District 6 in City Hall. I'm a husband, father, and a mentor to many young Oaklanders. I'm also a biomedical engineer, business operations consultant, and at my core, a kid from Oakland. And that's why it pains me to see my city in the condition that it is with respect to the blight, the illegal dumping, the lack of beautification. And so, yes, I do believe that illegal dumping can and should be eliminated. That is something that I am 100% committed to. What should we do? Well, there's the what. We have to resource effectively. So having an improved waste management contract, having the ways for our residents to get rid of their trash and blight and debris affordably and efficiently. We have to educate, changing the culture. When I was growing up, we had a campaign with Woodsy the Owl, give a hoot, don't pollute. We've got to make sure that we're educating our residents, changing the culture around what it means to keep our town beautiful. We've got to eradicate picking up the trash and the litter more effectively and proactively, but that has to be combined with enforcement. We have to hold those accountable who are dumping in our city, disrespecting it and us. But it's not just the what, it's the how. We've got to be able to fill the vacancies in HR, hold contractors accountable for the results we want, and implement a performance management system to ensure that our internal structure is working the way that it should. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Mr. Liu, Mr. De La Fuente, Mr. Scott, and Mr. Hodge.
I don't think we could cure the problem until we solve the problem of illegal immigration. I've seen these dump trucks did their work, and most of these probably illegal alien contractors who dump all kinds of stuff, and they get away with it because there's no way to track them. There's no cameras on intersections to track their pickup trucks or their vans, and they could do this from any city across the Bay Area. They could come in from here, from San Leandro, from Berkeley, and just there's no way to stop them right now, unless we have robust cameras with license plate readers, and perhaps we would put those footage accessible real time to the public so they could help in to solve these kinds of issues that's been happening in Oakland. Now, because of this city is a sanctuary city, we can't really go after these people for these kinds of activities. So I don't see any foreseeable future that we can solve this unless we have surveillance with license plate readers. And
Mr. De La Fuente.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to the AME churches for the opportunity. My name is Ignacio de la Fuente, former president of the Oakland City Council. I had the privilege of working with you in many different projects back in the day from 92 to 2012. I am back running because I do believe that we actually can resolve the problems that are facing Oakland right now, especially the crisis that we're facing. I'm glad that my message is getting across. Not every candidate is willing to do what we should do, which is enforce the rules of the game. We have allowed Oakland to become a city that everybody comes to do the thing that they don't do anywhere else. Illegal dumping, breaking into our cars, robbing some of the stores like happened this morning in Fruitville with a couple of stores. Why? Because we have allowed them to believe that Oakland allows those things to happen. And we have. The policies of this council have created a situation where we're not enforcing any of the rules of the game. We got to go back and enforce the rules of the game, and instead of cleaning up after people every night. I totally disagree. Any benefit of the program that the city has, what we do out cleaning up one night so people can come and dump the night again the night after in the morning. So we have to. I will enforce the laws. I will basically create an environment that people will know that Oakland is not a dumping ground. That will not allow you to continue doing what you are doing. I believe that the mayor has to set the tone. The Oakland is a city that will not tolerate what is happening today. So illegal dumping is just one of the things that we have created because our inability to enforce the laws and our inability to enforce the rules of the game. So thank you for the time.
Thank you. Mr. Scott and then Mr. Hodge.
Thank you. I got warmed up because we had back-to-back people who had a little sense of the truth, at least. I live by Wood Street. I got drone footage that will show you over a mile in a row of things that have been dumped illegally in Oakland. This isn't happenstance. Oakland has been plagued by illegal dumpers now for a solid decade. We have places on Wood Street that the city cleans up metric tons of trash weekly. For the past 5 years, I've talked to Mike, an unhoused neighbor who lives right there. Here's what he tells me. We pick it up twice a week, like clockwork, every week for 5 years. As Miss Victory mentioned, these are private contractors. That suggests corruption. Who can't catch a perpetrator dumping tons of trash in the same exact location for 5 years straight? It's actually absolutely embarrassing. And it's a lack of leadership in our city that leads to these conditions. How do you solve it? We need a zero tolerance policy for illegal dumpers. I will confiscate vehicles for first-time offenders. If we catch you dumping in Oakland, we're going to take that vehicle, we're going to auction it off if possible. We're going to take every measure to let people know they can't dump here illegally. The second part of the issue is people need places to dump their trash. We need to have more access to that. And then third, and this is the part no one has yet to mention, we throw away our trash in my neighborhood, and then our neighbors who are mentally ill, we move that trash and throw it all around. It happens over and over again, and no one stops it. Until we can actually address these mental illness in our streets, we're going to continue to have people hoarding not only the trash we throw away legally, but also the trash that's illegally dumped in Oakland. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hodge.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. First, giving honor to God, our ancestors, people on land we sit, and those ancestors like Richard Allen and Absalom Jones, who are the founders of the AME Church, who in their time did as much as they could to make their communities better. I'm concerned about the illegal dumping, as everyone else is on this call. There's a few things we can do in addition to some of the good ideas that have been presented so far tonight. One, in terms of the analysis, is that back in 2022 or 2020, we renegotiated a contract with Waste Management, which noticeably had issues associated with higher costs to dump at the Oakland dump, fewer staff in city government who are working on enforcement issues. And so those two things are at least part of the analysis of how we ended up where we are. I agree that we need to have more surveillance in terms of cameras, in terms of those hotspots that Seneca and other people have talked about. We need to make sure that we've got opportunities to have plenty of dumpsters for our businesses so they can do bulk waste more than just a couple of times a month. And then the last thing I'll say about it is that we need to have more investment in public works and fill those vacant positions. one of the things that for sure is that we need to design, implement more neighborhood-based cleanups, improve our campuses, our schools, so we can get to a place where we're at an acceptable level of cleanliness and beautification.
Mr. Hodge, oh, you were, okay, you're broken up. Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you, candidates, for answering our first question. I'm going to yield now to Tawanda Sherry, who will ask our second question regarding homelessness and the unhoused.
Good evening. It's great to see everyone here this evening. I wanted to present the fact that the prevalence of the unhoused in the Bay Area has always been of a deep concern for our communities from a social and a faith perspective. Since the pandemic, things have become painfully acute. My question is this: regarding homelessness, what experiences do you draw from that informs your understanding of this issue? And secondly, and how does your experience determine what policies you will fight for that will give the unhoused a safe and dignified place to stay, whether it be a temporary shelter or a long-term residence?
Yes, and in the order of this question will be for Mr. Taylor, followed by Mr. Scott, followed by Mr. Hodge.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So my grandparents came here to Oakland in the 1940s. They came from the Jim Crow South, Louisiana and Mississippi, and they came in search of a better life for themselves and future generations of their families. When they came here, they landed at Harbor Homes in West Oakland on land that the Port of Oakland occupies today, government housing, what we refer to as the projects. My grandparents were able to realize their dreams, and I stand in front of you of evidence of dreams that were fulfilled, that a family could move from public housing to home ownership, poverty to prosperity. And that dream is not available to way too many Oaklanders today. Our housing crisis is a prime example of that. So in order to address the housing crisis, I look towards ways that we can build more housing of all types in Oakland, like I was able to do as District 6 council member, helping to move along projects, 820 units of housing that have been advanced since I've come into office. Also accelerating the production of affordable and market rate housing in order to meet regional goals. I serve on the Association of Bay Area Governments, where we come together with leaders from across the Bay Area to figure out how we can work together, because we're not going to solve this crisis by ourselves, but yet we have to be intentional and purposeful and bring others and their resources to bear in order to make this happen. When it comes to ensuring the health, safety, and dignity of residents in and around encampments, that's another thing that I've led on as the Life Enrichment Committee Chair for the council, bringing the encampment management policy to ensure that health, safety, and dignity. And we have to make sure that we get government out of the way, eliminating the bureaucracy that stalls and adds cost to our housing production.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Scott, and then Mr. Hodge. Following that, Mr. Liu.
Yes, I came to Oakland as the East Bay Director of SEIU 1021, 2012, and I paid over $1,000 in application fees and was not able to find a place to rent, despite having good credit and making over $100,000 a year. I had to sleep in my office for a few months until I found housing with my friends in an art collective that we named the Garvey House in the Lower Bottom. So while it was a blessing in disguise, it is a harrowing testament to how even people who are well educated and well off at one time could not afford adequate housing in Oakland because it was just that competitive at that time. I also was an individual that filed a lawsuit against the city of Oakland for a failure to follow our encampment management policy, because I believe that the treatment of our unhoused neighbors is absolutely contemptuous. When compassion looks like what we see every day, compassion has become the human face of contempt. And it's very insidious that we pat ourselves on the back while the housing population grows and people die in squalor, shame, and misery in our streets. Why does this happen? It happens because we allow open air drug market. We don't have any rule of law in our homeless encampment. We have grown our population 24% while doing an eviction moratorium, which is a testament to our permissiveness and our laissez-faire approach to unhoused. So we can't keep growing our population and provide shelter and housing for an endless stream of people who are coming here because what we allow. We have to get control of the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We're all concerned about housing, and housing is a human right. It's not something that should be negotiable. It's not something that we should think of. It's fundamentally the mission of each of your churches to clothe people, to house people, and to make sure that folks are taken care of. You know, my experience with homelessness with the unhoused is a little different. I didn't grow up in Oakland. I grew up in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And so the first time my mom came here to visit in the 80s, she noticed people who were living without homes. And she said, well, what is that? What is that dynamic? Because we did not, as poor as working class folks were in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, we didn't have homes. People always had someplace to be. And so she asked that question. And so when we think about homelessness and we think about this as a fundamental human right, number one, we've got to make sure that we prevent homelessness before it happens with a range of services and supports for vulnerable families that includes seniors. 5,000 people are unhoused. 60% of those we need to make sure that we protect people who are experiencing homelessness with mental health services, with shelter, with hygiene, with safe parking, and begin to construct and produce more affordable and very affordable housing. That's the only way that we're going to work our ways out of it. It's a regional problem, not just an Oakland problem.
You, Mr. Liu, followed by Mr. De La Fuente, followed by Ms. Reed.
In light of recent events, we might get into a nuclear warfare with Russia because the US are supplying arms to Ukraine. So I'm thinking about we should dig holes on the mountains for fallout shelter, and it could serve as for homeless people. Now if a nuclear launch is detected, we have about like 30 minutes to 2 hours to evacuate people to these shelters, depending on the speed of the warhead, which travels at Mach 2 to 6. So these fallout shelters, I think the Oakland Hills, the underneath would be a good suitable place to build a nuclear fallout shelter, and it could accommodate, like, depending on the size, we could fit like thousands of people in there for emergencies. So yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. De La Fuente.
Thank you very much. First, let me be absolutely clear that I believe that the responsibility of homelessness is the responsibility of Alameda County and the state of California, not the city of Oakland. Obviously, we have to respond to the crisis, and that's the reason why I'm running. But I can tell you that when you have a city council and a city that has to spend $69 million, according with an audit report, and last year, and homeless direct services, and we have nothing to show for, that tells you that money and resources is not just the issue. I believe that as the mayor of the largest city in the county, I will use the bullet pulpit to make sure that all the cities in Alameda County do their share of when it comes to homelessness, when it comes to affordable housing, when it comes to dealing with the homeless. I believe that we have allowed Oakland to the homeless encampments to grow, not only in our parks, but in the streets in our cities. So we have to go back and make sure that all the resources that we are allocating to deal with homelessness is actually producing a result. But get down to the state to really be more aggressive doing that responsibility, which is looking for ways to not only to minimize, but make sure that we house the homeless. The city of Oakland just spent, I believe, $13 or $50 million buying some buildings in downtown to house houseless people. So we just have to realize that it's also that residents are being affected by this. It's not just the homeless. We got to talk about the residents.
Thank you.
also. Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Reed?
We've got 6,000 people nearly sleeping outside on streets and parks, under freeways and more. It's a humanitarian crisis. It's unacceptable to be a norm. It's immoral, it's unjust, and it must not continue. My own experiences in childhood and even as an adult entering housing instability, house hopping, living 20 to 30 deep, in a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, relying on government assistance programs, that drives my commitment to prioritizing and working to preserve and protect housing as a human right. My first home was deeply affordable, low income, $60 house. It disrupted my education. It exacerbated stress and childhood trauma, and too many families are enduring that. So as mayor, I will restructure our funding from managing this crisis to producing more homes, preserving affordable housing, protecting tenants with just increased assistance, mortgage protection, and funding affordable housing ownership programs. I'm working to advance over 800 affordable housing units right now in District 7. I've served on the board of Satellite Affordable Housing, where I've worked to bring 9 funding sources and more to get housing built. As mayor, I will ensure we fast track affordable housing projects in our pipeline to streamline our permitting and approval process. I'll enforce the staff the city's encampment management policy. I'll progress on how we audit where and how we've not spent our money to alleviate homelessness. I'll use our public land as we're doing right now in District 7, especially in transit corridors around the Coliseum and around the Hagenberger and Eads corridor to develop temporary and permanent housing solutions with wraparound supportive services for our transitional youth, veterans, and seniors.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Victory?
Thank you for this question. I have been homeless in the city as a teenager with my entire family while my mother was working 2 jobs as an educator. My experiences homeless in the city inform how I will approach the crisis. I've also served since I was a child with my church, True Vine Missionary Baptist in West Oakland, doing food and clothing ministry with my mother. I've seen there's been a long-standing need. Our house was foreclosed during the foreclosure crisis that captured so much Black and working class family wealth that has not been repaired. We need a housing first policy that will prioritize building back our shelter capacity, which caused us to declare a local emergency back in 2018. We've not had leaders that are willing to use that emergency power, those emergency resources, the millions of dollars that have come through our city administration right now to house a single person. Instead, our homelessness has grown. I spoke at the Laney College Poor People's Campaign 2 weeks ago about the need for moral leadership, for moral revival, to lead with a human rights lens to our human rights crisis. I will return people to housing that is meant for human beings. Our encampment management policy is doing just that. It's managing our encampments. It's redlining our homeless. We've never had the staffing or resources to actually implement even what it says. And even our city-sponsored encampments have no real standards among them. We need to lead with human rights. I'll protect and preserve our current renters, and tenants, including myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that question. Our third question is with regard to economic displacement of the Black community in Oakland. This question will be read by Carol Young, and I will place the order of responses in the chat.
Good evening. Greetings to all our candidates. Our churches are very concerned about the ongoing displacement of African Americans from the city of Oakland with regards to the population and Black-owned businesses in particular. Question: what kinds of economic policies will you work towards so that Black-owned businesses can be sustained in a healthy manner across the city and in our neighborhoods? And two, how will you promote economic development to ensure that our current residents and businesses are not displaced?
The order is first Ms. Reed, followed by Mr. De La Fuente, followed by Ms. Victory.
Thank you. I launched my own business. I run our family small business, and that business is still thriving nearly 2 decades later here in Oakland. I've served in state government as a senior aide to Senator Nancy Skinner when she was in the state assembly and our state budget chair, and I led out on policies that delivered more funding that also benefited Oakland small businesses. And I've led Fortune 500 business success. As our first Black woman mayor, I am committed to removing systemic and racist barriers. I put forth and co-authored with other colleagues a resolution declaring racism a public health crisis in our city, not just in name, but in action with how we invest more deeply into that Department of Race and Equity and how we support our businesses. I co-sponsored with Councilmember Taylor a local business empowerment through contracting to address the inequities where we have only contributed 2% of our own city contracts, 500 billion in government contracts, and only 1.4 billion has gone to Black businesses and women-owned businesses. And so I've worked to seed funds into the budget to support business improvement districts out here in East Oakland, where we've lost 500 plus business licenses when I came into office. I've worked to launch partnerships with the Black Cultural Zone and to help with supporting a training program for minority-owned small construction contractors, providing technical assistance. I've helped to leverage a $100 million community nonprofit grant fund targeted to the Black community with common applications for businesses, for artists, for entrepreneurs, those who did not qualify and receive PPP funds. I believe that we can waive this small business fees, we can create a commercial rent tax credit and support the African-American Sports Entertainment Group that is working to bring 30,000 jobs into the Coliseum with development.
Thank you. Mr. De La Fuente.
Thank you very much. So as I said at the beginning, I served in the city council back in 92 to 2012. I think work with many council members to try to level the playing field. We're the ones that start devising not only the small local minority business enterprises, with the ones that start resolutions to make sure that the local small women-owned businesses will have a level playing field. I believe that as mayor, that was his council member, as mayor, I believe that the mayor has a responsibility in this form of government. The mayor is really the administrator of the city. Oakland has major projects on the sidelines. I believe that as mayor, I will not only be the top negotiator negotiating with corporations, that will be the ACE, or that will be any of the big development projects that are planned. And from the get-go, make sure that the local, small, women-owned, Black businesses, brown businesses will have a share of those opportunities from the get-go. I believe that we have to create a safe environment for businesses. The reality is that all our businesses are suffering right now. They close in early. They are being robbed. They are being assaulted. So we have to create a safe environment for businesses. I believe the Oakland has an incredible opportunities too. That will be developing the waterfront, or that will be developing downtown. I have a track record being a very pro-development person. Why? Because I believe that that's increasing our tax base and increasing opportunity for business is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Victory, followed by Mr. Scott, followed by Mr. Hodge.
Thank you for the question. For the last 3 years, I've had the benefit of serving as a member of Economic Justice for Black Oakland, which is a faith-rooted space, combining so many different leaders in our community, labor, as well as social justice advocates and racial justice leaders. We've advocated for things like the Department of Workplace and Employment Standards to enforce workers' rights, to help educate employers on how to protect workers. And we have a lot of great laws on the books, but they mean nothing if we don't have actual staffing and resources to enforce them fully. We need to stop our city's contracting disparity, which absolutely I agree with Councilmember Reed has shown through our various studies that we are not giving out contracts as a city to Black-owned businesses that should have qualified over the years. That is our own fault, and we need to work with our Department of Race and Equity to get equity back on track and centered in how our city is operating. I do support economic development across our city, especially in West and East Oakland, and have negotiated community benefits for the Howard Terminal project, and will advocate the same for all of our large projects and public lands projects to ensure adequate climate justice and economic impacts for any negative impacts that these projects may have on our communities. I also support the progressive business tax, which is supposed to generate around $20 million and should go back into our small minority-owned businesses. And I will implement a public banking system, which will help with local business assistance. And I advised our city and SF back in 2014 on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scott, Mr. Hodge, and then Mr. Taylor.
I think the number one thing that we can do for our businesses right now is keep them safe. Many people cannot keep their employees at work, and we're losing money right now because of our lack of rule of law in Oakland. So that's the most important thing that we can do. Second is we continue to create business improvement districts in Black areas. For example, the San Pablo corridor in West Oakland is ripe for development. We need to look at private equity. Right now, I think that there's been cooperative economics, or UJMA, for those familiar with our Kwanzaa principles, have been sorely lacking. I like public banks. I like Black-owned banks. But when are we going to step up and provide our own opportunities to each other? When are we going to stop selling Big Mama's house and instead allowing each other to help each other and provide mutual financial aid to be self-determined as a people? So I think that if Black people want to build Black wealth in Oakland, we're going to have to change our attitude and do something we haven't done in a long time, and that's sacrifice for each other, put each other first, and do what other races and cultures have done in America that we haven't seemed to have been able to do for many decades, and that truly work together for the economic interests of all of our people in ways that are meaningful and impactful. In our government, I need to see where that money is first. I have a plan for an independent office of a controller to track down the many tens of millions of dollars that seem to go missing in Oakland that could be helping our people. Thank you.
You, Mr. Hodge.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it really is important for us to think about this in a lot of different ways. One is that we are, facing historical and contemporary redlining, both in terms of business opportunities and otherwise. We've done over the years, since probably days of Eloise Harris as mayor, disparity study after disparity study, and never really having a sense of how it really makes a difference. So I think that one, we can do a much better job in encouraging and incentivizing investment in technology and green tech startups with 51% ownership by people of color and women. We can create a public innovation fund to invest in startups. We can make sure that we have a community benefits ordinance so that we're not renegotiating community benefits at every single deal. I agree with the ideas to establish access to more capital through a public bank that could be capitalized with $500 million from the City of Oakland's operating pooled portfolio, as well as an enhanced infrastructure financing district that would encourage $1 billion in investment in new housing. The Black Hat proposal that went from the county into the county government is something that we thought made a lot of sense with Barhigh, $500 million investment in Black home ownership, as home ownership is the basis for most wealth in this country. So I think we can do a much better job. We can pay attention to issues as we work on all of these issues together.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor.
Yes. So as a third generation Oaklander, I've seen more than 2/3 of my family who I grew up with here in Oakland no longer living here because they've been displaced, either voluntarily or involuntarily. I'm running to become Oakland's next mayor so that all Oaklanders can live, learn, work, play right here in the city that they were born in, especially our long-term residents. I've been addressing the challenges of economic disparities from day one that I've been on the council. Activating vacant, blighted, underused parcels is something we have to do in order to create more value. And we've done that, focusing on one example, the lot at the corner of 73rd and Foothill that was growing weeds waist high and collecting litter. We got calls on that incessantly. They're working with community members. We have partnered and turned that lot into what is now an urban oasis. We call it Liberation Park, where we boast an outdoor roller skating rink. It's a place where local businesses can come and engage with customers, building their business on a path towards having a brick and mortar. That's an example of how we activate the spaces that are underused, undervalued, and underappreciated within our community. We also have to focus on empowering our people, like we were able to do, launching ESO Ventures, an entrepreneurship accelerator in the midst of the pandemic. Also, I'm proud to have worked with Senator Nancy Skinner to bring more than $8 million for local businesses, small businesses, Black and brown businesses to the city of Oakland. And yes, advocating for local business empowerment through contracting in the city and advancing reparations policies like the Emerald New Deal, bringing more than $160 million to the Black and brown communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Liu?
Oh, I'm a self-made multi-millionaire, and I used to be poor. I went to the military, the Army, went to Iraq, came back. There was no jobs for me. I was negative like 14,000 net worth because I had student loans from the University of California. So I developed a platform called CESP5 that teaches people how to be making like $30,000 a month. They organize these games in which people come play. They pay $100 to $200 to the organizer, and they start up companies. They bring their business ideas, and they select based on the ideas who's going to be the leader of the company, and based on their resume, they vote on who's going to be a secretary, who's going to be a treasurer. And let's say, for example, the winning idea is a bed that was just a tube-shaped bed with its main inch of metal. That kind of concept, let's say, takes like $2,000 to build a prototype with the materials and labors. Now, if that prototype could sell out for like 10,000 to like police officers or judges who might need, a tube-shaped bed that could withstand bullets or even earthquake. Let's say there's a 7.0 earthquake and stuff fell on you, you would be able to survive. And let's say you sell that product for like 10,000, and that's how they make money. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Looking at the time, we're going to shift, and we're moving into our rapid response questions. We were going to do 3 at 45 seconds apiece, but we will switch to just 2 questions and give you all 1 minute to respond. And so the first question is, how will you partner with the Oakland Unified School District Superintendent to increase safety? And what preventative measures would you take to make schools with low-income families have the same safety and security as more affluent schools within the Oakland Unified School District? And the order of response is Mr. De La Fuente, followed by Mr. Hodge. And then we'll keep going.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the question. One of the main reasons why I'm coming back after 10 years, what's happening in Oakland, what's happening to public safety and gun violence is something that I cannot just stand and watch. The reality is that this is the results of a lot of the policy or the lack of policies that we have in Oakland. When you look at defunding the police, when you look at not giving them the tools to do their job, when you look at attacking them all the time, when you look at all of those issues, to me that translate in the fact that people think that they can do in Oakland whatever they can, whatever they want to do, because it's very, very little response or no response. So first, I believe that we have to retool the police department, make sure that we create a police unit that we used to have years and years ago, make sure that we're giving the tools, especially the technological tools that they need in order to do their job. But most of anything, I think the relationship with the superintendent, you're absolutely correct. In my opinion, that one of the biggest responsibilities of a mayor is not only the safety of the residents and the safety of businesses, but the safety of our children to go to school.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry.
Mr. Hodge?
Yeah, it's a critically important question. As a former school board member, I really have a sensitivity and understanding of where and how schools can be made more safe. I think part of it is creating a safe culture for young people that they can learn at an early age how to resolve conflicts without picking up a weapon. And I think that's a role that the faith community can have, a role that educators, parents, and others are real concerned about. I think that it also speaks to the notions of increasing the support for the Department of Violence Prevention, a department which works in this domestic violence, on street level violence, and all of those forms of violence can begin to be addressed. I think that we need to do a lot more with the public schools in partnership. A summit on safety, a summit on educational resources is going to be really important for us to have as we go forward as a community.
Thank you. Mr. Scott, followed by Mr. Liu, and then Ms. Victory.
So when you have children who are obviously showing signs of distress, where they're killing themselves and others, violently robbing each other, playing Grand Theft Auto in real life in the streets, then we got to put the responsibility squarely on the adults. So we have child soldiers in the streets of Oakland. Some of these children who I know who were young teenagers when I moved here 10 years ago now have claimed lives that they regularly laugh and brag about on their YouTube videos and etc. And we've got to do something about that by being honest about the problem. So when it comes to the children, the thing that I'm going to be focused on, although it seems asymmetrical, is making sure that no child in Oakland goes hungry again in school. When a child goes hungry in school, there's no clearer message that adults don't care about them. So when they express themselves violently, we can go back to that. We talk about root causes all the time while we create new root causes in Oakland every day with what we feed our children in our schools. Thank you.
Mr. Liu, followed by Ms. Victory.
Yeah, the future for our schools is going to be Zoom meetings, because at these schools, we're dealing with rampant drugs, violence, gang violence, sometimes sexual abuse at the hands of teachers. So Zoom meetings would mitigate all of that, and it would give them a safe place at home. And if they are inadequate in the school subjects, they could be tutoring also on Zoom meeting. And also for the people who are middle school and up, I would suggest them to practice my platform, CESB5, so that they would understand how to be an employer in the future versus the employee mentality, which the school has ingrained in them. And if they fail at that, then they're left with like few alternatives. So they need to learn how to be capitalistic.
Ms. Victory.
Thank you for the question. I am proud to have the endorsement of a majority of our school board candidates who are running this November, because we have to stop closing our schools, especially in underserved and low-income communities. They must serve as safe havens. They need to be adequately resourced with public transit services. I relied on AC Transit to get to school every day, as do many youth in our city. We also have high traffic collisions and incidents of pedestrians being hit or killed when they're trying to pick up their children. And I will work with our school district to ensure that there are safe zones for people to simply get to school and to go home every day. We had a police-free schools movement over 10 years because our Black youth were being referred to the juvenile justice system at 50 and 60 times higher than white students. So I'm not about recriminalizing our youth and stopping their opportunities before they even graduate, but about addressing the harm, about teaching nonviolent alternatives, about healing and investing more in trauma-informed care and counseling at our schools. Thank you.
Ms. Reed, followed by Mr. Taylor. Oh, you're muted. Oh, there you go.
Wow, this is really heavy for me. This is the month that we lost our son, Brandon, at 20 years old in 2013 when I was working for Nancy Skinner, advancing her gun violence packages. And this morning we lost my cousin's son. And so the issue of gun violence is painful, and it's beyond personal with what too many of us are experiencing and enduring in the city. The two schools that we've experienced a mass shooting and a shooting incident are in my district. And so I've been working to realize how this declaration of a gun violence being a public health crisis that I put forth when I came on the council can be more realized. It called on the city to invest more deeply into violence prevention, intervention, and healing trauma care. I've worked on the Youth Alive Advocacy Committee, working to address restorative justice measures, investing in our youth in schools with the teen on teen training program for teens to help mitigate and be a part of the training and curriculum. We need to train our teachers. We need to have these opportunities in school to engage our students. We put 2.4 million into school safety in partnership with OUSD. And as the chair of education partnership, I'm deeply committed to work more with them on the everyday needs that they have.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. As a product of Oakland Public Schools, the son of a product of Oakland Public Schools who is raising products of Oakland Public Schools, I am deeply committed to making sure that the progression of our young people through our public school system is accelerated and as positive as it can be. What that means is we have to engage as the city with our district leadership, with the other stakeholders, to really give our kids the fullest opportunities for them to thrive and excel and reach their full potential. That includes, one, we have to focus on empowerment. How are we empowering our young people with the highest quality education, the necessary wraparound services, mental health and conflict resolution training, workforce and career training, and of course, the basics, food, shelter, and clothing. These are things that we as a city can and must partner to deliver through our many programs. Also prevention, like violence interrupters in the schools, the OK program, restorative justice, and the response in the unfortunate incident when bullets are flying in our schools like we just recently had. We have to be able to respond quickly with everyone, all of our resources. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Our last rapid fire question, rapid response question before our final question is, other than gun violence, what other public safety issues have you been working towards solving in the community of Oakland, and who have you been working with? Again, other than gun violence, what other public safety issues have you been working towards solving in the community of Oakland, and who have you been working with? We'll start with Mr. Taylor, followed by Ms. Victory.
Yes, when we talk about public safety, we have to recognize that public safety is comprehensive. If our residents are afraid of, what may happen when they turn around the corner, or in the unfortunate case that, a catastrophe occurs, we have to know that we're supported and that we're cared for. So a couple of things that I've been focused on. One is making sure that we are prepared in the case of a disaster and emergency. We just came from, or not even through it yet, a global pandemic. We respond to that. We have earthquakes, fires. We have to make sure that we are organizing our communities to respond and be prepared should that emergency occur. And so I've been working with our neighborhood councils, with our CERT program, with the wildfire and earthquake preparedness teams in order to make sure that all of our residents are prepared when and if a disaster occurs. Been working with the teams within OPD, our nonprofit partners, when it comes to gender-based violence and support for them in order. It looks like I am out of time.
Yes.
Oh, apologies. Go ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Victory, followed by that Mr. De La Fuente.
I love this question. I hate that I only have 1 minute on it. I am a criminal justice and police practices attorney right now. So this is my job every single day of advising our city, our county, but also 48 out of 58 counties on public safety issues. Some that I've worked on specifically in Oakland, your council members have reached out to advise on our minimum staffing in our police department with Measure Z, on police budgeting and funding, on police labor rights with all of our reforms happening. Your Reimagining Public Safety Task Force has reached out to attorneys like me to provide legal policy advice on all of our recommendations about moving us to a more holistic service of public safety. I last trained our police commission on the Public Records Act and how they can better respond to those requests and get information across all of our departments. I've worked with our chief of police on revising our use of force policy. I've worked with Faith in Action East Bay on setting up an oversight commission for our sheriff, which we will have a new one in January. And there's a lot of crises going on internally to deliver better and more constitutional policing. Thank you.
Mr. De La Fuente and Mr. Scott, then Ms. Reed.
Thank you. All that they got balance, obviously, I think, again, coming back to work and some of the toughest issues that affect Oakland right now, which is obviously gun, public safety, gun violence, and homeless encampments that are kind of taking over the city. Been working with a lot of individual businesses. You know, we talk a lot about, really, I'm coming back because I think we talk a lot about the needs of other people. Sometimes we forget about the residents, the impact on the businesses, the impact that some of the homeless encampments, the impact of the violence has in our businesses. So I've been working with small local businesses to make sure that they advise how to protect themselves, how to make sure that they use whatever tools the police have in order to report, how they can use cameras, how they can use a way so they can protect themselves. In my opinion, I believe that, again, sometimes we talk a lot about homelessness and about the issues without really talking about the residents that are suffering the impact of exactly what's happening in our city or what we have allowed to happen in our city. I will continue advising businesses, but thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scott, then Ms. Reed.
Hello. So I've been focusing fundamentally on human connectivity and neighborship. I have a nonprofit, Neighbors Together Oakland. Our 4 pillars are community safety, localized agricultural systems and soil-based economies, thriving local businesses, and accessible housing. And we use our community garden and we look for other third spaces in other communities to bring neighbors together to have a place to get to know each other in ways that are more meaningful than meeting in stores and supermarkets or bars and pubs. And right now, in our urbanized environment, there are precious few of these spaces. So people feel safe when they know that they're provided for, and communities that know their neighbors are always remarkably safer. So my organization, Neighbors Together Oakland, has worked with the Urban Compassion Project. We have worked with Alameda County Dig Deep program. We have worked with a lot of people. I don't want to waste, I'm running out of time for the list, but yeah, we're out here and we're active. Thank
you. Ms. Reed, then Mr. Liu, then Mr. Hodge.
Yes, thank you. I secured additional public safety traffic calming measures, street lights, shot spotter technology to go all the way to the furthest part of East Oakland and above 580. I secured illegal dumping cameras, business corridor safety cameras, fire department services, wildfire education, and emergency preparedness funding. My gun violence declaration, it called for culturally responsive mental health services, life coach, service connector, living wage jobs and housing, and technical assistance for Black businesses to enhance their self-sufficiency and home ownership and assistance and rental support. I launched the District 7 Community Safety Task Force with over 30 community-based organizations and neighbors, where we go out on the street once a month and we flood International Boulevard with resources like PPE, free haircuts, hot meals, toiletry, housing programs, community safety services, jobs, nutrition and wellness, anti-displacement programs. I also activated the Coliseum as one of 2 national COVID-19 mass vaccination sites and delivered an equitable strategy into the neighborhoods with partners from faith organizations, community-based organizations, secured 10,000 for free ride share codes and DoorDash gift cards to support our community.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Mr. Liu, following that, Mr. Hodge.
My philosophy is if you teach people to be rich the legal way, they certainly won't have to deprive the life and liberty of others. That's why I'm teaching people to be rich with my platform CESB 5, so they would be rich the legal way, so they don't have to go out and mug people, break cars, break windows, do the kind of robbery, mugging, and that sort of thing. And I've created a lot of people who are wealthy because of it. Some kids drop out of college just to practice my CSB 5 and find themselves now being a millionaire as well. So I introduced this plan in 2014 when I first ran for mayor in Oakland, and this program has been a very success for a lot of people, and it's free. It's entirely free. People can just practice it, and I don't get a dime from it. So, but I'm teaching it for free because I'm wealthy already, and so that way it'll bring the community together if they know how to be rich the legal way. Yeah, thanks.
Mr. Hodge.
All right. Over the years, I've been able to work with other folks on a range of issues, and I always say we and not me, because it really takes a group effort to get anything worthwhile done. Brotherhood Elders Network has advanced the creation, among other things, of the Department of Violence Prevention. We worked with Healing Together on domestic violence issues as it relates to the role of men in that. We've worked on healing circles with Urban Peace Movement and Determination Project, group of young African-American men mostly, who were really searching for how they could become better as people. We worked in the juvenile justice system with Kelvin Potts and the Positive Minds group, and a range of things, including the work that we've done with the African American Response Circle to respond to COVID. In many ways, that was one of the major public safety issues, public health and public safety issues that we worked on over the last 3 years.
Thank you. All right, this is our final question, and it's for 90 seconds, and I will go ahead and just put the order down in the chat. I think Mr. Scott had to depart from us. We believe that Oakland is a great city facing formidable challenges, but our faith reminds us that challenges, when faced head on with teamwork and vision, can become opportunities for positive transformation. So what positive opportunities do you envision for the city of Oakland? And if elected, what community partnerships will you seek out during and beyond your term in office? This goes first to Ms. Reed, then to Mr. De La Fuente.
Well, thank you. I'm a resilient single mother. I'm also a licensed minister at Shiloh Church, and I'm running to move Oakland forward with a just and equitable recovery that will demand change, accountability, and results that we have long deserved, particularly our Black and Brown community, not feeling seen, not feeling heard, not feeling supported. I have seen and I have not forgotten our community in every corner of the city where I have lived, worked, and served. I believe that this is a moment of just that contagious hope and faith in action to really lead forth with solutions and not excuses. And so I'm excited to advance an amazing vision for the city, making sure that corridors like the policy area are uplifted with economic empowerment that flows out into those connecting communities, rebranding Oakland in partnership with Visit Oakland through this $96 million of state tourism funds, advancing an equitable multi-billion-dollar budget that keeps us safe and protected and at peace, that keeps us housed, that keeps our city clean and beautiful, our businesses open, our community working, our schools open with students thriving with clean paths and healthy neighborhoods to play. I'm going to start off doing a Love Our Town in our first 100 days, touring every neighborhood in Oakland, and at each stop focusing on listening sessions, voter registration, community cleanup. I'll continue to do what I've done with our Day of Action in East Oakland and launching that citywide with community-based organizations, with city, county, and state partners to serve our residents and to meet those, particularly those most impacted areas of Oakland on the ground where they are, with my administration showing up. I would do that in
Thank you.
partnership with you, and I hope that you'll hold me accountable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. De La Fuente, then Mr. Liu, then Miss Victory. Mr. De La Fuente, you're muted, sir.
I muted myself not to. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you for the question. I hope that, and I ask people sometimes to go back and look at people's trust records, go back what they did in the past if they were in elected office. I served 20 years in the city council. I believe that Oakland is blessed with a religious community, with CBOs. We are blessed. We have so many organizations that help us kind of mitigate sometimes the lack of a city's vision and the lack of the city's responses to some of the issues that we face in our communities. I will continue. I will strengthen the partnership with the religious community, with CBOs, with people on the street, and mostly residents. I believe that many areas of our city are people that are willing to participate, willing to work. But we have to put Oakland first. I'm running because I'm running to represent the residents of Oakland. And with all due respect, most of the people in the homeless streets are not from Oakland. I'm very parochial when it comes to my city. I'm running because I believe that I can make a difference, and enlisting the help, enlisting the partnership with organizations and churches and community-based organizations and businesses that I believe that are the ones that provide the jobs, create a safe environment. It's a priority. Nothing will happen in Oakland without creating a safe city and getting the city back on track. Nothing will happen in Oakland unless we have a leader that is willing to make the decisions that need to be made in order to get the city back on track. We have incredible opportunities and coming to us. That will be a stadium, or that will be 150 acres of the Coliseum to develop it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Mr. Liu, followed by Miss Victory, then Mr. Then Mr. Hodge.
I want a lot of entertainment in Oakland. That's why my ballot designation is an entertainer. I want giant water slides at Lake Merritt, bounce houses, zip line across the lake, horsey rides. I want to turn every sizable park in Oakland with a unique theme attraction so that this would provide entertainment for our youth. So they would be occupied in playing these parks, and they would less likely be out doing criminal activity, like, holding up people with guns and such. So, and because of these parks, we would provide a lot of jobs to youth, especially, and we're gonna bring in a lot of tourism to Oakland that would generate tax revenues, so the city could have money for the police department, for the fire department, and it would bring a lot of entertainment. Like for San Antonio Park and the Diamond Park, we could have concerts there. We could have free concerts for the people, and people with there'll be different bands playing, and people could donate to the bands, and whoever's got the most donation would be a winner on these types of activities. And so like rave parties and such, it'll give a lot of things for our community to be happy about. Thank you.
Miss Victory?
Thank you for hosting this forum and for inviting me. I'm Elisa Victory Villanueva, number 7 on your ballot. You can learn more about me at victoryforoakland.com, Victory for Oakland on all social media. I am running because I'm from Oakland. I want to live in Oakland for the rest of my life. I'm raising my godson who's 15 and orphaned by COVID. I want him to continue to live in Oakland and to thrive. I want Oakland to be a world-class city where everyone who lives here, who comes here, will feel safe, be healthy, and have equal opportunity to thrive here and to remain here. We have long-standing issues that have been created by the past failures to act, failure to center people who look like me. I am willing to serve and to serve equitably. I'm willing to lead with participatory budgeting so that our public has more of a say in how our public dollars are being spent, to have more public control over our most fundamental needs, including housing, including supporting our local businesses, having public control over public sanitation, over our trash services and pickups. Some of the things I want to do have already been legislated, are already written in our policies, in our laws, but we don't have people that are willing to follow them. I myself was illegally put off of this ballot for 2 weeks by our city. 2 weeks, because our city refused to do their job, to read the laws and to agree with me. But after 2 weeks, I was the only candidate able to fight my way back onto this ballot. And I'll continue to fight for you as Oakland's next mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Hodge.
All right. Again, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Archbishop Desmond Tutu said that hope is being able to see light despite all of the darkness. And I think that this is an apropos quote. We've led with this idea of hope and healing throughout this entire campaign. We believe that one of the things that Oakland is in great need of is a little bit of hope. Ability to be able to see what's happening, to understand what's on the other side of the crisis that we're facing around the unhoused, around public safety, around illegal dumping. The second quote I want to end with is Dorothy Height, one of our African-American women leaders, said that leadership is the capacity to rise to the situation of the moment. And I think that good leaders rise to that situation. We're going to partner with our faith community, with our churches, with our mosques, with our Buddhist temples, with our Ifa community. We're going to partner with our CBOs, many of whom I've worked with over the years. We're going to partner with our small businesses and our majority businesses to make Oakland work for more of us. It's going to require all of us. It's going to require equity lens. It's going to require a sense of fairness and justice. We have to move from political transactions, deals that get made behind the closed doors of City Hall, to systems transformation. And we've got to begin to do that work in ways that are meaningful for not just ourselves, but for our children and our children's generations. We want to leave them in a better place than we inherited.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. As a man of faith, I know that through God, all things are possible. And we will overcome these challenges that we have in front of us that make many people give up on our city and the opportunities that exist. Also, as a kid who grew up at Progressive Missionary Baptist Church, there I learned that faith without works is dead. And that's why I have been working hard to solve the tough problems in my community before coming into City Hall 4 years ago as a council member, and I look forward to doing the same as Oakland's next mayor. We will deliver on transformational projects like the one proposed at the Coliseum by the African American Sports and Entertainment Group to develop a new city, a new part of our city, doing that equitably to make sure that those who've been left out, disenfranchised, and usually are not a part of this can actually build the environment, the equity, and benefit from what's being invested around them. Also, we will deliver transformational projects like, we will also achieve the both and, where we are being compassionate and enforcing the basic laws that we know keep us safe and ensure the quality of life here in our city. Also, that means we have to address immediate needs and long-term needs. Like, as I was leading the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force as its co-chair, making sure that we're addressing the needs of our community today and laying the foundation for what we'll build in the future. That's what I look forward to doing, leading out on, and driving as a council member. That's what I have done, and look forward to partnering with this faith community and so many others who are invested. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, we'd like to thank the candidates for attending this event. We know that your time is precious. It was very helpful to us. I'm sure our members could agree that they were directly informed and heard from you, so that they're able to make the best decision that they can in voting. And we want to make sure that folks vote, amen, and exercise their right to vote, and all that is going on in our world today. I see, yes, Mr. Taylor.
I did just want to say, and if you weren't going to touch on it, it is ranked choice voting. There are
Yes.
5 slots to select.
I
Did
am.
you get it? You got it? Okay.
Okay,
All right.
yeah. Before I do that, I think Peyton, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Yes, just out of respect for all of the candidates that are here, thank you again so much for coming. I also want to make an announcement that Shanked House Campaign did reach out. We pulled together this event, you know, in a couple of weeks, and she had already had a previously engaged event, so she sent over her regrets. And out of respect for all the candidates that were able to make it, want to say thank you, but also wanted to explain for a candidate who was absent as well that sent a remark of their regrets, as we said that they would. So with that, I'll pass it back over to Reverend Sales, and thank you all again for coming.
Thank you, Peyton, and I will say we have already had a prior to this event, we had already had an event that talked about ranked choice voting in the city of Oakland for the mayor's race. And so this is another reason why we wanted to make sure to have an event so that folks would be able to understand that this race calls on folks to rank their choices up to 5 regarding who they are going to decide to elect. And as we've already talked about what that means in terms of policies, in terms of people, we hope that this event has helped you all as voters understand what is happening on your ballot and who you're voting for and what those policies represent as you go into ranked choice voting. Election day is November 8th. I know there's also early voting opportunities. Again, we invite everyone in the community to exercise your right to vote and to do it with much vigor. And so I do want to put out again, this is a ranked choice voting election for the mayoral race. And that is up to you voters, how you will choose to rank each candidate. Again, to the candidates, we say thank you for your time. Thank you for giving of yourselves and of your experience and your vision for Oakland, not just in terms of the challenges that we face as a city, but the opportunities that you all see to make this city what all of us would love it to be. Thank you all again for giving your time. And that is all that I have. Peyton, is there anything else to do
Nope.
housekeeping wise?
Nope, that's it. Just will all of the members who were on the program, not candidates, just the team who was a part of putting this together, will you guys stay behind for a brief reflection? Thank you all very much. Have a
Good night.
Amen. Thank you very
Good night,
much.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Good job, Brother Sales.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.